Hey everyone, how you doing? My name is Michael Kofi Anyane-Yeboa. I'm a first year student, medical student at Einstein College of Medicine. And I've been tutoring for the MCATs. Probably it's been say 3.5 years, almost 4 years now. And one of the things that I've realized is a lot of students have found trouble with highlighting passages and also identifying key information in question stems. So I made this intro video just to introduce you to my thought process about highlighting passages and how I go about it. Some of the key steps I take, right? And some of these things I did without having to think about it, which most of you may be already doing. You realize that some of these are things you already do, but now you can actually describe it to yourself or define what you're doing, which is good because then you can remember to always do it during your practice session. So let's begin. Let's begin. So, what are highlights? Like, why do we even highlight? Why do we even highlight? We highlight because we don't want to memorize the passage. Like, why would I'm reading about 9 passages a section for 4 sections? That's about 36 passages, right? Why would I want to memorize everything in those passages? It's probably impossible. Some people can. I know I can't, right? But what we want to do is we want to remove that burden. And so what do? We highlight. Secondly, it helps us locate relevant information easily. What do I mean by that? We every passage has what we call fluff or basically garbage that you don't need to know or you don't need to remember, right? There's key bits of information there that will help you answer the questions. And that's what we want to do. We want to answer the question, we want to get the high scores. We don't need to know everything about what the passage is saying. Some of these excerpts are from research publications, and researchers are the ones who know their work best. I didn't do the research with them. So why are you asking me these questions on this research that someone did? It's because the MCAT is testing you on concepts that you know. They're never going to ask you questions about things you don't know, right? It's things you've seen before, things that were in the AAMC outline, things you know, right? So this is why we highlight. Now let's go to the keys of highlighting. I have 2 keys here that I wanted to share with everyone. First, you highlight your first, I call them first encounter nouns. These are words, they can be processes like, for example, this example, glycolysis, concepts in physics, let's say mechanical advantage, energy, proteins, enzymes, it could be compounds. But anytime you're reading a passage and there's a noun that appears for the first time, highlight it. The next step after that is you want to highlight things that describe or characterize that noun, right? So, say glycolysis, and they're telling you about things that happen in glycolysis. They're probably telling you things that they're going to ask you questions on, right? Some may highlight more than others, but here's my rule. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it works for me, right? So you limit your highlighting to 3 to 4 items in a sentence. When I say items, it could be a singular word, it could be phrases, usually not more than 3 word phrases. That's what usually works for me. And the key is not to over highlight. You don't want everything to be yellow, right? Or whatever color your highlight is. You want everything, the things you highlight, to be so profound or let's say prominent. That's the word. To be prominent enough for you to identify or locate where you are or what you are looking for. Secondly, a good highlight will make this test feel like an open book test. I say that not to say that you don't have to study content, but you've studied your content, you've done all the hours of work. If you highlight a passage well, you are going to feel like, hey, I have all the information I need to answer the questions, right? What do I mean by that? A lot of the questions you have on the MCAT, and sorry about the sirens, I'm between 2 hospitals. So you probably hear that. Hopefully Zoom has cut that out, but I just wanted to say that. We are probably going to answer questions based on what the passage is feeding you. Most of the questions you'll be answering, let me be honest with you, the answers are in the passage. Some of them you need two-level thinking or three-level thinking, or say two-step process or three-step process. But a majority of them, even that two-step process, is going to be with information in the passage, right? So a good highlight will work as it's going to be your working summary of the passage, and it's going to be your where you find your landmarks, where you can locate the pertinent information you need to answer questions, right? Now, I'll just as a caveat, if you're highlighting, you don't need to be writing summaries. Again, your highlight is your working summary. So those of you who use summaries to say answer class passages, right? You actually write summaries down, 1, 2, 3 sentence summaries. You don't necessarily need to highlight. You're going to be wasting time. Time is valuable when it comes to the MCAT. All right. So now that we've done this, I'm going to go on to talk about question stems. Now, this is something cool that I learned recently from my friend. Shout out to you, Koyo. But I think it was helping. It actually what I was doing, but I couldn't word it. I couldn't describe it in words to people. But this is a really good system, and with this, you can break down any questions then bring it. Let's start with the first green flag. So any green flag is going to be information, whereas processes, concepts, proteins that you see in the question stem that have been spoken about in the passage, right? So now you've done your highlighting, you are great, you have moved on to your questions. Green flag are going to be those things that were presented or that were spoken about in your passage. Note that you can have completely green flag question stems. What do I mean by that? Questions that are like based on the passage, what is blah blah blah? Based on figure one, what is the relationship between this or that? Those are questions that everything is in the passage. You don't even have to think about anything outside the passage, right? So those are your completely green flag stems. When we come to the red flags, these are information that we don't necessarily see in the passage. We may see a word in the passage, but the information we need to answer the question is stuff that we have learned, MCAT content that we have learned that we now need to what? Remember, right? It could be like, okay, we are talking about glycolysis and the question is about the rate limiting step. You are trying to remember that because they didn't give you that in the passage, but you need to remember the rate limiting step or the rate limiting enzyme to answer this question, right? Again, you can have completely red flag stems. Standalone questions are a classic example, but you can have these standalone questions even in passages, right? Yeah, so these are things that I wanted us to note about question stems. Also, with question stems, one thing I do is I always rephrase the question. Say the question in your own words. What are they really asking me? What is this question really asking? Right? Hopefully, you gain something from this video. It was just an intro video. I have two more videos. Those are actually on ChemFizz. They are going to be they're actually already up. I wanted to make this video just as an intro so that you have some foundational understanding of the strategies I'm using before you started looking at my videos. So thank you for your time. Enjoy yourself in whichever time zone you are in, and all the best with your MCAT studies and exam. See you soon.